I already have, do you want me to, I already have a mic, so I'm going to leave this for questions. Yeah, I'm going to leave that for questions for later. Hi, I'm Leiden.
I'm Andy.
That's Andy. So our presentation today is about a new project we've been working on called the NYC Mesh Wiki. So I'm going to throw that up right here. So the idea behind this is we've been, so as of right now, for those of you who aren't aware, we have our docs page, which is this. So this docs page is currently kind of our hub, other than Slack. This is our hub of information where you could find firmware stuff. You can find all of our install guides. You can find explanations of like, okay, this is how the network works. This is how OSPF works. All that kind of stuff. As you can tell, right now this docs section is hosted on GitHub. So it's a GitHub repository under NYC Mesh, and to go in and edit this, you have to you have to download GitHub, you have to clone the repo, you have to use some sort of Visual Studio Code or whatever. You can just edit the straight files, but you need some sort of software on your laptop to be able to go in and edit it. Also, it's very it has Markdown. We can do image embeds, we can do all that kind of stuff, but it is, where's something with images? Anything like the OmniTick. Yeah, like you can do image embeds and whatnot. We have like PDFs embedded and that kind of stuff. But the main thing that we found is that we're not getting like the number of people who are actively editing the docs is very small.
I think on average it's like 2 edits a month or 3 edits a month.
Yeah, and at least as far as I've found, like I'm one of the people who's going in and editing this, but what I believe is there's a difficulty in the skill level required to go in and edit this is higher than most people are comfortable with. If people don't have familiarity with GitHub, this is going to be a tricky thing for them to go in and edit, and that's why we're not getting more active contribution to our docs and why it's not expanding. Like right now we have basically the same, other than a few hub pages, we have basically the same pages that we've had for the last 2 years. A few of us, Andy and me and a couple of the people, John, who's not here, what we've done is we've gone ahead and made the NYC Mesh Wiki. So do you want to explain a little bit more what the background of this is and what it's running on?
So this is a wiki, which is similar to Wikipedia. This particular one is an open source project called Bookstack. So it has a lot of the features that Wikipedia has, but it's also very easy to edit. So if you used like Confluence or Notion, it's very similar to those, that we can host it ourselves on the Mesh. We have a lot of different features. So for example, let's go to a networking page. BGP. If you want to learn more about BGP, you can obviously read all about it. We've got this navigation, and then the big feature is you can edit, and then you immediately have access to change the content without logging in anywhere. You have to log in to this wiki currently, but you don't require separate software, etc. And then you also have this search feature. So BGP pops right up. You can easily navigate to it or see the other articles. Yeah, so kind of those are the main features. This isn't necessarily supposed to be a replacement for the current docs. It's more to kind of augment them with like more detailed information. But yeah, so that's kind of the state of things.
Yeah, so to kind of run through, just some examples of what we have. Obviously, you have light and dark mode. All my pages are in dark mode because dark mode is better. But just an example, so a few different pages. We have things like we can put colored elements. We can do warnings. We can embed images. We have, so for instance, this page here, we've got embedded images. We've got these little checkboxes, can be like as this is a to-do list for the page. As you go in, you can fill in the checkboxes. You can do code embeds like this. And then all of this is done with that that what you see is what you got edited that we saw before. Same thing with some of these. And then the other cool thing is what we've done is we've already gone ahead and basically we've been able to import all the existing content from the existing docs into this. So as you can see, this is our Omnitic page. This is the exact same page that we looked at in our docs, and this is just a direct import of the existing content in the docs. So it's very easy for us to do kind of a changeover. And basically what we're looking to do with this is we're trying to build something that it's going to be easier for people to to edit and to kind of keep up to date. Some of the we're really just looking to kind of show this to other people and kind of get more buy-in, before we kind of decide what we want to, if we want to change over to it, or if we want to keep a mix of our existing docs and this. One of the ideas we had was, having, for instance, our main website is mostly what people, for instance, people who are joining the Mesh or people who are just getting involved. They're seeing they're seeing the main website. They're probably not that interested into diving into a bunch of technical pages with a bunch of information. So using the main site as kind of the overview level, here's the basics of the Mesh. Here's an example install. Here's kind of the equipment you use. Here's all the basic stuff, and then and then we can have a link for the wiki that'll dive deeper into, okay, here are, specific configurations, here's the configuration page for people who want to DIY. Here's, some of the pages we've done recently. If I go back to here, I want the overview page. Here we are. So where are we at?
You can search it if you know it's called.
Yeah, right. I have a search. So, for instance, this is a page I made the other day where I've done, on a couple different installs, I've been installing these non-penetrating roof stands. And this is a page I made being like, here's the two models I've used, here's price, links to purchase, all that kind of details. Here's my review of them. And the idea of this is that this is the kind of page where, okay, cool, this is building this is our installer knowledge base. So if other people have other experiences, they can go in, they can edit this page, and this is just building a bunch of information that, people who are doing installs or whatever, this is more information that they can reference. So yeah, one of the ideas is to just is to use, not necessarily completely replacing the docs in every single instance, but in situations where we want to have, this kind of knowledge, like collective knowledge, using the wiki to be able to have these really easy to edit pages that anyone can just log into and can edit. One of the other things we were talking about, which we still haven't really decided how we want to handle this, is pages for specific hubs and for specific buildings. So right now we have a few different pages here for 4 different hubs. One of the things that we kind of have to figure out with this is, there's information that we have, right now on our existing docs page, we have documentation, we have pages for a lot of, for all the super nodes and, Vernon and Saratoga and, some of the bigger hubs in the Mesh. And, having those public facing pages with just kind of general info about the sites is great for, just general knowledge and just kind of saying, okay, here, this is what a hub in the Mesh looks like. Here are some of our example hubs. It'd be great if we had more of those pages, because they're also very useful for people trying to DIY, because we can put, panoramas up there, we can put sector diagrams up there, all that kind of stuff. The other thing that is nice on the kind of internal, like install and maintenance side is having somewhere where we can do where we can have information about the sites just for installers and just for people who are looking to maintain them. Right now, as you can see, this it says nodes private. Right now, this whole section of the doc is private. So if you're logged in, you'll be able to access it. But this page is not public. And that's an example of something that we can do with the doc is we can do it on an individual page basis.
Yeah, we can do it on any basis.
And also on a section basis, where we can say, okay, some of these pages we want to have public, and some of them we want to, the ones that have more private information that we don't want just publicly accessible and searchable on the internet, we can make those pages private, so you have to log in, and then we're going to have to figure out how we want to handle the credential management and who has access and whatnot. So that's a different discussion to have.
Yes, I feel like the two main things that we could discuss possibly are like, one, what should be public versus private, and then two, like if we do want to move some stuff over from the existing docs, like the more technical pages, like what is the scope of that, so that we're not necessarily like duplicating content on both sites. Yeah,
and also kind of figuring out exactly where we want to, how much. What do we think is the best application for each, for docs versus wiki, basically. I think, that's basically what we have. Oh, the other thing the other thing that people have brought up, kind of in regards to this whole, in regards to this whole changeover process, is the fact that, if we are moving information around, we are going to break, existing links in Slack and OS Ticket and whatnot. So, what we're going to have to figure out a way, in some cases it's it's okay, cool. We've, for instance, in some cases it's whatever, we've broken a link, if someone has a link in an email from 3 years ago, whatever, it's a broken link and they'll have to find the new page. But what we can do, is, we can figure out, there are ways that we can go in and we can try to update, make stuff automatically redirect.
So there's redirects. So like we can do redirects from the existing docs, and we should do that for every page that we move. And it's relatively easy. It's just basically like a single line that says, this is the old thing, this is the new thing.
So for instance, something that might be, if we're moving, for instance, the install section that has a lot of these regularly, that's one of the more kind of collective knowledge-based sections where it's like, okay, this is how to crimp network tables. This is how to do this. This is how to do, the kind of, the rooftop installer knowledge base. If we, for instance, decided, okay, let's move that over to the wiki so that more people can contribute their knowledge to it, then we would have to basically build it so that if someone's clicking an old link in Slack, it'll just redirect them to the wiki.
I think that should be relatively easy, hopefully. And we should definitely do it so that we don't lose that data.
Yeah. Questions?
What is the aversion to use my mic?
No. Yeah. Where is the microphone? Brian's got it. Yeah. So
what is the aversion to migrating from the docs to the wiki, other than the link rot? Is it the code repositories in GitHub or?
Yeah. So I think part of the reason why we have the docs is it's meant to be like an intro to like someone who just wants to grab an Omni and then put it on their roof, who has like no experience doing mesh stuff. And so like one of the benefits, you can go back to the docs, it is very like simple user interface. So you could potentially be like less intimidated by all the different information. And so the wiki has a lot more features, like it has search, so then it has to have a search bar. There's this hierarchy, so then it has to have the hierarchy. But this is kind of all flat and simple. So I think this is good for getting people like started. But yeah, there's definitely like a lot of detailed articles that would be good to have on the wiki, I think.
Anything else? Willard? Nope.
Oh yeah, and Willard helped us with the import script, which was awesome.
Yeah, okay. So I think that if we want to keep a sort of simple step-by-step guide on this website, I wonder if the docs as they are now is the best way to do that. I'm thinking like Should we build some kind of new page that is just that? And also, at the very least, if we're gonna have the wiki and have it be a carbon copy of the current docs, we need to deduplicate and delete pages off the docs like as soon as possible.
Agreed. Yeah, I think having the same information in two places is going to cause confusion, because what's going to happen is the wiki is going to be kept up to date and the docs is not going to be, because one of them is way easier to edit. So yeah, we definitely need to deduplicate, and then also kind of decide, okay, personally I think the kind of the install knowledge base and the ideally I think the DIY configuration instruction stuff, that should be on the wiki, because every time MikroTik releases a new firmware, we're going in and every time there's new updates and new firmware, and the standard for what we use is constantly changing. So I feel like that is something that having on the wiki would allow other people to go in and say, okay, cool, we can go in and do this. And actually, the thing I should also kind of mention is, in terms with the wiki, there is an audit log. So there is the ability that if we, if something goes in and gets changed that we don't like, we can just go in and change it back and stuff.
And if we wanted to test out the process, we could maybe select one of these subcategories of the docs that's highly technical. I think the networking has BGP stuff. So if you're doing a install for the first time, you probably don't have to know BGP. So that might be a safe bet to move those, and then keep a stub on the main docs so you can see the breadth of our coverage, but then just have a link to the wiki.
Yeah, basics on the website. Main website is basic stuff. Hey, I want to do a DIY. Okay, here's the next level deeper. Or hey, if you want to, this is for instance, the docs, instead of having, for instance, this, networking, instead of having all of these different pages about, okay, here's the 10.69, here's how BGP, here's, OSPF, here's how VPNs work, we can do for instance, something along the lines of something along the lines of a mesh design page. I mean, even this page is somewhat technical, but the docs is where we put the page of, here's the mesh, here's how it works. Mesh is based on having a bunch of different nodes that all connect together. They do dynamic routing between them, blah, 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 blah. Then, when, for instance, we can say, okay, our dynamic routing is done via OSPF. Here's the wiki page if you want to dive deep into that. And then you go into the wiki, and that's where we have the full technical breakdown of how OSPF works, all our configurations, etc. So for the average person just browsing through the website, it's offering them a nice simplified explanation, and then the people who want to dive deeper can go down to the wiki where it's a bunch of technical stuff.
So it seems like the problems we're discussing with the wiki, and let me rephrase this. It seems like we have two separate problems here. The first one being that we want to have a comprehensive repository of everything we know about everything. And the second problem is that we don't want to scare new users away with that when they can probably get up and running in 15 minutes with a really summarized overview. So why can't we kind of have both hosted in the docs, but you won't have to show the entire thing to people coming in at once. So theoretically, we could scrape our own docs and put some pages on the website, or have I don't know, if we want to have a simplified explanation of border gateway protocol, then we can have that as a separate page, because there's nothing stopping us from duplicating our own information. And then if people want to follow links to go and actually read the full write-up, they probably would be able to go and do that. So it solves both the problem of not making people just walk out because they think they can't do it, while also still having all the information relatively accessible.
sorry, what's,
Yeah, I think I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
So like the idea, like you have a stub page on the docs basically that has like an abbreviated version of the article, and then you link to the wiki maybe or something for a more in-depth.
Yeah, it feels like this isn't the best way to explain it, but maybe like a basic and advanced slider so that you can, or maybe when you log in, it asks you what level you are, if you're an installer, if you've been to one of the meetings, whatever.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
So the main goal of what we're trying to do is we're trying to move away from docs, because simply for more easily editing. That's what we're trying to do. Is we're trying to make it so it's easier for people to edit without having to have a GitHub account. And then because of that, there's the question of, okay, what information do we want to, where do we want to draw the line of? That's where the kind of intro/technical level, that's an easy distinction of, okay, all the technical stuff goes on the wiki and all the basic stuff goes on the website. That's a very, that's kind of just an idea of where to draw that line. But I feel like the main goal of this project is to move away from having the bulk of our knowledge base be in GitHub.
And you could ask maybe like, why shouldn't we just have everything on the wiki, or why shouldn't we have everything on the docs? I think that's mostly just like technical, because like making the wiki look like the docs would be pretty difficult. You have to like remove all these things and think through all this stuff, and then making the docs into the wiki would require adding all these different features and adding user authentication. So yeah, it's much easier if we can just like split them into two separate ideas.
Charlie?
Yeah.
Grab the mic.
I would answer his question by saying the wiki is something that anybody can edit. So if you feel that it's too complicated, you can go in and edit the wiki and make a simple page, and if it's good, people will come.
That kind of. I just feel like we can have a wiki that displays different information to different users at different times based on how much they want to know. And it seems like that would solve both the issue of having everything in one place, but you only send out, I don't know, like 5 of those pages, copy them with or have the website go and copy the wiki page every week or whatever. And then you have both solutions kind of simultaneously.
I have another question, simple one. Why is the URL wiki.mesh and not just wiki.NYC Mesh?
Oh, that's kind of just like an administrative thing. So there's like a GitHub repository where you can like do a commit and change the DNS to the .mesh subdomain or subdomain or whatever it's called. But for the main one, you just have to go through Brian basically. And so this is still kind of in like the beta phase, so we haven't made that switch over yet.
Yeah, we haven't updated the DNS, I think is the answer to that question.
And my other question is about the way that you imported the docs. I noticed that, that's not such an easy thing. You said you had a script, Willard, did it? And,
Yeah.
is that documented?
I'm going to pass him my mic.
Is that, no, here you go.
Yeah.
Is that documented on the wiki itself?
So that was meant to be like a one-off thing. I did it once, and now the docs are on the wiki, and we should basically freeze the docs, is the idea.
I'm interested in the method.
Oh, the method? Well, I can give you the TLDR. Basically, there was an import script on GitHub, and I made a few tweaks to that, and then I put it on the book stack. I did not write it down because I was not intending to do it more than once. I can write it down if you want.
Yeah.
We can make a wiki page.
I can make a wiki page.
And I should say, like, the script that Willard made is super awesome, and it was like a great starting point. But we did have to go in and like fix a lot of links and stuff, and there's just a lot of random little like nuances that are hard to like write a script for. So like that's why it's kind of difficult to like keep two separate databases like in sync.
That it? Awesome.
Oh.
Yeah.
Since the mic is here, one of the things that I've been thinking about is, since I have been doing a lot of support and working on some outreach, some of our web page, our flow can be improved. And I know Matt was working on it. I think Oliver has some ideas about that. But if anyone has like web content creation expertise or design expertise, this is a great framework for us to all contribute to the knowledge base and understand, the difference between having to update a mostly static documentation tree or moving to more dynamic, everyone pitch in and explain things to each other. But for example, we tell everybody, hey, nycmesh.net/join, and you go there, and I'm not sure you really understand what you're doing when you're on that page. So that's just an example.
So you get this page, and you click this.
And that's mostly because, we're busy and we had to hack into, adding a building and
now
whatever.
it dumps to a page that doesn't even load. So there you go. And then it dumps
brings
to a
you
Google
here.
form.
But what am I giving my information about? What am I doing, right? So if someone who has an eye for web content creation could look at our website and say, like, okay, I'm a person who knows nothing about NYC Mesh, and I think I want internet. What does it mean that I'm doing this? Like, when we go here, whatever link that we give to the public should have links to everything that you need to know easily and attractively.
Yeah.
So
there's
please,
some redesign
please
that's
step
needed.
up if you have that expertise.
Yeah, I
and
feel, sorry. I was just saying, like that's a good point. And like the whole wiki kind of philosophy, like seems like it meshes really well with the mesh, just because it's kind of decentralized. And like if someone has an idea about the website, if they don't write it down like immediately, it's probably just like gone. So having something really easy to edit, but then also be like persistent across time is pretty useful.
Yeah. So I think kind of the call to action is like, if you want to get involved in this project, there's a thread going on #mesh-services in the Slack, and that's where we're discussing, and that's kind of where we can have a discussion towards, switching stuff over to this, and kind of how we want to do that. So
Cool.
That's that.
Oh yeah, it's wiki.mesh.nycmesh.net.
Yes. Cool. Yes. What do you need, Daniel? To me on Google Drive. Got it. Me. Andy. Yeah. Get Andy's. Or you can take this one. Like, I'll get it here in a second. You share it to me. Did you share it with my Mesh account, probably?
Okay, let's see if this is a thing that happens.
I presume you shared it to me on my Mesh account?
No, no, I didn't do that. Why would I do that?
My personal account.
Yeah.
Which personal? I have a lot of email accounts.
That's true. Why do I have all my codes on? Well, because it's cold.
What is it called, Daniel? Oh, here it is. Got it. Bullet updates. Do you want presenter mode on this, or do you want to just duplicate it?
I'm sorry? Yes, present, please. Present.
Okay, so
You should just point here and go next slide.
No.
Think about how cool you look.
That's okay.
No, why?
Awesome. Yeah, that was good.
Fine. Have fun. Oh. I don't have it? Oh, it's probably. Let me just do it the simple way then. Oh, it is in duplicate.
Any way would be great.
Do you have, like, what do you see now? Do you have my screen, Charlie?
No, if it's going on the screen, I should be seeing it because it's going into the
Let
system.
me just.
I've got that.
Oh, okay. Well, then now I just unplug it. Plug it back in and see if it goes.
You're saying try not to paste.
Oh boy.
Do
He's saying because I pace, probably.
Yeah, it's just gonna take a second. I'm gonna throw it into the slideshow. You got it? Okay. Back here.
Thank you, Lighty. Okay. Actually, Jolly, this is where I'll be standing. Okay. All right, I'll just be here because I gotta tap the thing. All right, good evening, everyone. My name is Daniel Heredia. As I introduced myself earlier, I am a board member of the NYC Mesh organization. That is one very small part of what I normally do. Most of the time, I'm out, trying to organize stuff on the Slack when I have time, which is pretty limited these days due to job, but usually I am trying to help others achieve their own goals in the organization, and that's something that is a priority of mine, to help people navigate sort of how to deal with what is pretty daunting in terms of what the organization is, who to ask for things, how do I make an impact, and these things, and that's one of the biggest priorities I had when joining the board. And so today I just wanted to give a pretty brief presentation. We just concluded a board meeting. We started at 6:10 and commenced at 7 o'clock. Got through almost all the things that I was hoping to do in that meeting, and just to talk about a little bit about what we're doing, what the board, speaking on behalf of everyone a little bit, sort of how we see ourselves and how you should see us within the broader scheme of the organization. So I'll just briefly mention, this is actually one of maybe the first org meeting where we have all the board members in this room of a new board. Just to go over everybody who your board is, it's Brian. That's Brian. Say hi, Brian. That's Zach. You got Zach over there. We have Ian over here. Hi, that's me, Daniel. And we also have Mark. So you can all see that, I want you to also look at sort of when we had all joined the Slack. We had obviously all joined the Slack and became a member for different reasons, of course. But it's really a pretty broad spectrum of old and new, and hopefully in future years we can continue to see sort of the breadth of how much involvement do you want to be and how much direction you want to be involved in creating and cultivating the organization. So just to give a couple of things what we've been working on, because the main importance of making sure that people know how to do things within the organization is to know what is the organization made up of, right? So a lot of the decision making we've been made since we were elected by our membership was creating more structure. More structure is not necessarily in terms of hierarchy, right? More structure is making clear processes in order for people to accomplish things. In the past, a lot of collective decisions is all based on the membership of the volunteers. People who want to put in the work will get the resources on how to carry out the mission of growing the mesh, but the most important part of making that happen and cultivating that for new members is making it easier for not only for new members to jump in, but also improving opportunities so people can see what decisions are being made, how projects, when they come about, are being built, how are new hubs being built, what decisions are being behind those, and making sure it's clear that it's all a volunteer driven process, as well as approving bigger projects. I'll show here that, just a few of the things that recently we've been discussing in the past couple board meetings, a lot of the things that are sort of on the next level, whether that's a big budgetary ask or a big, or an agreement that we need to sign with another entity, like a building or a cooperative, all these things need to be overseen by the board. So the most important thing is to make sure that we're doing due diligence as the fiduciary of the organization, making sure we're doing our due diligence to make sure that we are fulfilling the mission as best as possible, as well as allowing all of our volunteers and all of our members to do what needs to get done to fulfill that mission. I'll just quickly run through some of the little projects. I know there's some older ones here you may see if you've been around the Mesh the first time, but I'll just quickly do a flash through some of the different discussions that we've had. around our most recent discussions around this. So 14802 is actually the aforementioned project that Quincy brought up to the board. That will be the new South Slope Hub. We agreed to approve the budget. We do have some more questions about what we're expecting from the agreement with the building, the outreach process, but the most important thing was understanding that this is going to be a net positive for the organization, especially in dealing with some of the other concerns we have at the Supernode and making sure that we're continuing to provide a service to the South Brooklyn community. We also have the 111 8th Avenue POP, that is the Google building, a data center. A lot of the past couple board meetings has been discussing in terms of our new strategy for growth, fiber to buildings and around further parts in the Bronx, into Upper Manhattan, other parts of Brooklyn require needing to sign expensive agreements that could be, I won't name costs right now, but we do have costs upon request, just to talk about some of the expensive agreements, how expensive they can be, leases that exceed thousands of dollars. So we have to understand and balance how to say, okay, this is what buildings are a good opportunity in terms of expansion to our regular traditional membership. Most of the time, Mesh is known for our rooftop antennas, but also making sure that we are opening opportunities for buildings to get connected, kind of like Verizon Fios, where we're doing fiber to the home, fiber to the apartment. Those things we have to make sure that we're doing our due diligence on. Lily Hub is another example of that. That's a major Bronx project that's coming up in the pipeline, and we're currently talking about discussions with those. Supernode 1, there's concerns when our lease is up now, so we are currently working on ways that we can make sure that we are spending our money efficiently there, especially because our return on investment there is not very high, because we only have one, for instance, for a 1 gigabit exit there. We want to make sure that we're using our limited funds the best way we can, and Zach is taking the lead on that project. Supernode 3 is another example, which is on our public channels where, costs have gone up exponentially. And how do we manage that so then it's not a burden and it's still right-sized to how many people we're serving in the Sunset Park area? And of course, the rest of the mesh, as most of Brooklyn does go out of Supernode 3 normally, as well as Flatbush Cats was the project that I was working on. It's a smaller one, but just an example of making sure that we have to review our budgets, making sure that we are spending the right amount of money for the right amount of investment in the community. So some things that I want to do in the next couple weeks or so, and this is something that I would love to hear from you all here and also on the Slack, is how can we be more transparent? A lot of the times in the past, there's been friction about how much is the board involved in decisions and how much does it control the minutia of the organization, right? The board should never be stopping a project, but it just needs to do its due diligence in making sure that we're doing the right thing. So the things that I'm hoping that we can do, especially with support with our bookkeeper, Jason, who you might see on the Slack, is making sure that our financial statements are public and on our website. This is very common practice for other 501c3s. We should be doing the same. When I used to do installs in this building, I would get approached by folks asking, where's your Char 500? Where's your 990? What's your EIN? I want to look it up, and we should be able to produce that immediately. So that's something that we have to work on. Our board meeting minutes. We do have a channel where we post those, but we don't yet have a process for making sure that we are doing it regularly. That's something that we're looking to do within the next month as well. And also in terms of communication. In the last meeting, we decided that we want to reduce barriers. People should feel free to ask the board questions, especially most of the requests that come to the board happen to be with budget approvals for equipment and for things of that nature. We should make that easy as possible. We should make it easy for people to ask, if I have a project and I don't know, does this require approval or not? Make it easy so then we could say yes, no, where's your budget? We can work it out. So it's not so much of a, oh, this is no good, it's going to get denied. It should be, we have some questions, how can we get it to the approval stage? How can we get the mesh to expand with your initiative? Because everyone has energy, and everyone in the organization, I felt this way when I first joined in 2021, It's easy to have energy to bring to the organization to do something, but not knowing where to ask and who to ask can kind of be a damper on that. So trying to improve that as well and making sure people can communicate with the board easily. So this is the #1 goal for the next meeting that we have. I'll hopefully be able to give a report to the board that we've done this, and hopefully we can make it better than what we have now, which doesn't have anything. So, yeah, I know 2018, yeah. So, it doesn't have to be here. I think I would actually like to make it a prominent spot on the main website. I know there's discussion about what the docs shall become. This is tangential to that. It should be very prominent, so anyone who wants to know about what the 501c3 doing, what's our fiscal health, they should be able to know. So just a couple reminders as I close up here, wanting to make sure that people know exactly what it is, how to interface with the board, right? It's the membership and it's the volunteers. This organization does not grow without volunteers. The volunteers are the ones who are making the decisions, who are leading the charge on what to build, where's our next hub, what outreach are we doing. That's the most important part, and we should be cultivating and supporting them. It's not the board making these top-down decisions of this is where we need to be doing ACP or all that. The board members may suggest these things, may suggest new projects, but we're not doing that as the board there. We're doing that as individual volunteers. We all have lives outside of Mesh. I think that's obvious. We all have various jobs. So sometimes what that means is that our performance doesn't necessarily match the speed of which the organization moves at. So that goes into how to communicate with the board. Reducing the amount of time it takes to get action is something that I'm hoping we can do more. We've been pretty good. We were starting out meeting monthly, which is a little much. For some months there really is not that much activity to drive that demand, but we are trying to do that to make sure that we're keeping things moving. And we also want to hear from you. If you have ideas that you are not sure even how to go about, you should be able to talk to somebody. It doesn't necessarily have to be a board member. And I often encourage, don't contact me if you have a specific question, because you can ask a public channel and someone will help. But if it does need to be a bigger project, we're happy to speak to you about like what needs to happen and as well as what it takes to get it happening. And just a small note, we are due for a next round of elections. We do all have different board terms. We actually are following a staggered board term schedule, which can be found on the org channel if you scroll back a little bit. But we will be naming a nominating committee per the bylaws. To work in a similar process last year. 2 people will nominate board members. Anybody can, there will be 2 people who are responsible for the nominations that people can recommend. So then, and hopefully this year, we can have a smooth and seamless transition to whoever wins the next election. So we want to make sure it's reflective of the membership and we can support everybody at the Mesh. That's it. Any questions about anything? Cool. Awesome. That was clear. Oh, sorry.
How big is your board?
5. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
How many members are on the board?
So it's 5. So it's Brian, me, Marg, Zach, and Ian.
And do you have plenty of people that want to join the board when election time comes?
Just based on the last data from the last election, I believe there were 8 or 9 applicants, so not overwhelming. And usually, and it should be, let me say this. The board should be reflective of the membership. So if you're participating, it makes sense to become or to be viable, and absolutely anyone is welcome to as long as they are a member, which is very broadly anyone who lives within the 5 boroughs or is within reach of the Mesh or is connected to the Mesh somehow, whether they're volunteer, participant on Slack. It's extremely broad. So really anyone at all associated with the organization could run for the board.
could we go further than making the financial statements public and just export our accounting software, the export files from the accounting software and publish them to the website so people can see down to the level of theoretically individual transactions instead of, oh, we made $52 million this year. Nobody can track where that went.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes, so I think that's a great point. I've used QuickBooks Online before at my old job. It's very annoying and I hate it, but you may have more experience with it than I. I don't think that would be an issue. Part of another thing that the board is currently thinking about right now is more tight budgeting and actually, not to go as far as to say the common trope of budget is a moral document, which I believe in sometimes, but also making sure it's clear, what projects are being assigned. Whenever right now, the current policy that we had toyed with now is, automatic approvals for general purchases under $500. Right now, based on some issues related to how much money should be assigned to each project and what makes a project worth it, we're looking at some different metrics right now. We're looking at ratios between how many installs do we see coming from a building, expected revenue and expected support of the community. All these things is being considered actively right now.
So
And that would mean we would be able to put more details for every line item on the financial statement.
okay, great.
Did you want to add more on that, Zach? Or? Okay. Anything else? Great. Thank you so much.
I'm sure that's where Brian is right now.